Good morning, gorgeous. How are you ladies doing this morning? I hope you're having a great day whenever you are listening to this. Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Michelle Daff, and I am so excited to have this conversation with you today about things that women don't understand about men. In today's culture, there are a lot of blurred lines between men and women. And we live in a culture that oftentimes pins men against women. We don't always understand why we do what we do, and we also don't always appreciate one another for our differences, our God-given differences. So I want to talk to you today about things that women sometimes don't realize are different about men. And because we don't realize these things, we get ourselves worked up, we get angry, we feel like we're unseen or unloved. And really, it's just a difference of gender and of understanding. So I hope that by hearing some of these things, it can help you in your relationships with your significant other or even your family members or coworkers who are men and understand their behaviors a little bit different. Also, modify your behaviors so that you can behave in a way that they can understand. That communication can be a little bit more smooth because you understand our differences. And before we get into the video, I do want to share that we are restocked. Find Forever Fragrances, which is my fragrance line. We are restocked. I have received so many messages of women asking me to repurchase the fragrances, and I felt so bad because I did not know when we were going to have more fragrances, but we have them now. So if you would like to purchase a beautiful fine fragrance, you can visit fineforever.com, and we have some really nice specials going on right now. And thank you to every single person who has purchased and supported and who loves and raves about the fragrances. It means the world to me. I want you to go ahead and sit back, relax, get something to drink, get something to write with, and let's talk about this. The first thing that many women do not understand about men is that men show love differently. Now, of course, many of you have heard about the 5 love languages and how some people show love in different ways and receive love in different ways, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about how men usually are as a group. Of course, there are individual people who are different, but for the majority of men, they show love in very different ways than we may see. So on the movies and on social media and just culture-wise, we think of men showing love in ways like giving you flowers and sending you candy and telling you, I love you as much as they can, right? And when we don't get those things, when we don't get those reactions, when we don't feel like we are constantly being smothered by acts of love, we think that they don't care about us, they don't appreciate us, they don't love us. When in reality, men do show love differently. Most of the time, when a man really does love you and wants to show you that, he shows love in small ways throughout the day, throughout your relationship. And these are little things that he may do for you to make your life easier, things that you may not realize he's doing, but that's how he's showing you that he loves you. It could be that he's making sacrifices for you that you're not aware of. He could be choosing to do something for you that you did not even know you needed done. He may be giving you ideas for things that you never considered. And of course, spending time with you, giving up time that he could be spending with his friends or doing God knows what, but wanting to spend that time with you. Him doing these things is him showing that he cares about you, that he loves you, that he wants you. If he's checking on your car to make sure your car is running smooth, if he's washing your car for you, if he's asking you questions about things that impact you, that is a sign. So just realize it's not always wrapped in this grand romantic package. That fades over time. Yes, there are some men who do that at the beginning because they know that's what women like. And that's why we get so much pushback over things like Valentine's Day and things where men feel like they're being forced to do these grand gestures. But the reality is these are ways that he himself is showing his love. You wouldn't want someone to be doing things just because that's what you expect from them. You want it to come from their heart. You want it to mean something to them. And by him listening to your day, by him taking in all these conversations about things he really does not want to hear about, but he's there and he's not rushing you to finish and he's showing you that he cares. Those are ways that he's showing he loves you. Men may not always be able to vocalize their feelings and their thoughts, of course, the way that women are. That's not how their brains are wired, and that's not something that comes easily to men. But just his consistent presence is enough. That in his eyes is showing that he does love you and that he does care about you. So it's important not to put so much emphasis, regardless of what people say, regardless of what you see people doing on social media, regardless of what you see in the movies. Don't put that as the marker of whether or not he loves you. It's not those things. It's all the other stuff. That's the stuff that really matters. Another thing that women oftentimes do not understand about men is that men need their space. And it does not mean that they're pulling away. If you just met a man and you're all in love with him and you're talking all the time and texting all the time and you're just all about him, and then all of a sudden he starts to not text as much, not text as fast, not call you every single night, it does not mean that he doesn't like you. It does not mean that he's pulling away from you. It doesn't mean that. It means that he needs his space. If a man is spending all of his time with you and then asks you, this weekend, I really just want to do something different. Like, can we just do our own thing? You're like, oh, what does that mean? What is he saying? And you start calling all your friends and trying to figure out what he's doing. He's not doing anything. He needs that time away from you. And it's not because there's anything wrong with you, but they need that time to themselves. Oftentimes what you'll find is that when a man comes home from work, if you're married, he needs time to himself. I know you miss him. I know you want to talk and you want to connect, but he needs that time when he comes home to decompress, to take off the world, and to get in a new space so that he can interact with you. It's not something women always need. A lot of times women need the opposite. Not every woman, but many. But men really appreciate that downtime. For a man, taking time away to recharge and to regroup is how he's able to build back up his emotional capacity, for him to be able to get into a clear mind space. We all need time to recharge. We all need it. But for a man, it's really necessary for his emotional batteries, just to process things. He needs that time without interruption, without feeling like there's something wrong. He doesn't need to feel bad during that time. He needs a clarity. And it's crucial for him. Oftentimes, once this period of time is taken care of, he's able to show up for you in a better way. He's able to really understand his thoughts and his feelings. If you got into an argument and he needs some time to think about what you talked about, don't get into this frenzy like, oh my gosh, he's going to break up with me because he hasn't spoken to you in 3 days, right? And I'm not talking about married people. I'm talking about people who are dating. If you haven't heard from him in 3 days, don't think it's the end of the world, but he needs that time to process, and he will show up for you in a better way when he's had that time. So the next time your boyfriend or husband or whatever man is in your life needs that time away from you, instead of getting upset and asking him 1,000 questions, allow him to. Give him that peace and that space, and you take time to focus on yourself. You take time to enjoy yourself and to get into the things that you enjoy doing. And he's going to be more appreciative. He's going to feel more connected to you. And he's going to feel like you allow him to live, to breathe, to have his life, which will allow him to have stronger feelings for you. So don't worry. Allow a man to have the space that he needs. Another thing that women oftentimes do not understand about men, and I've talked about this one quite a bit, so if you're on my channel, I'm sure you know this, is that men value respect over love. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And it's not to say that men don't need love. They do. We all need love. But what they would rather have and how they perceive love is through your respect, how you talk to him and how you treat him. Oftentimes, the scariest thing for a man, believe it or not, is a disrespectful woman. To know that a woman's mouth could be so wicked and so lethal that the things that could come out of it could injure him for life is scary, because it means so much to men, and you mean so much to him. And if a man has spent time with you to get to know you, and he's shared with you, he's been vulnerable, he has connected with you in that emotional way, there's even a higher chance that you could say something that could really injure him because he's shared something private with you. So a man really needs to trust a woman, to believe that she is going to be respectful towards him in order for him to really show love to her. Your respect is all he wants. And if you don't know how to respect a man or what it means, I really want you to look up this stuff. Like, I want you to take time to research and to understand what it means. Respect to a man often means being valued for his contributions, for his efforts, for who he is, not talking down to him or behind his back negatively to him, not shooting down his ideas, building him up and not tearing him down. I have videos on my channel about respect, and I also have a podcast called The Dr. Daf Show, where I do more content than I do here on YouTube, especially in the areas of marriage and love and dating. So if you're a woman who really wants to understand men and understand the dynamics of how you're seen and how to really engage with a man, I urge you to listen to my podcast, because I do go into more detail than I do here on YouTube. So in a relationship, respect translates to how you value what your man is saying, how you value the ideas that he shares with you. If you just shoot him down and act like they're stupid, if you talk down to him and act like his ideas are not strong or other people are better at certain things than he is, when you go against the things that he's asked you not to do, when you make decisions without consulting him, you do it on your own, and then he just has to deal with whatever you did, those are signs of disrespect. And it shows him that you actually don't love him, even though you might actually really love him. That's how he measures it. And the area that most people struggle with the most when it comes to disrespecting men is in arguments. When you're having a disagreement with him, that is like the best time for you to show him what kind of woman you really are and how much you actually do respect him. If you're able to disagree gently, disagree respectfully, disagree without any put downs, without any negativity, without anything that's going to bruise the relationship, he is going to truly value you as a woman and see you in such high regard, because you have the character of someone who is kind but strong, and he will value you even more. On the other side, if you choose to be disrespectful to him and dismissive and rude, you're going to find yourself dealing with a different man. He is going to pull away from you. He may start being disrespectful towards you. He may try to get you back in sneaky little ways. Oftentimes, he may just leave. He may just leave, because that is something men have a very hard time bouncing back from. They can't seem to forget about it, because your treatment to him is the highest in his life. How other people treat him, he can make excuses for it. He can dismiss it, but you are the one that he wants to see as the one who values him the most in life. He wants to feel like your king, like your savior. Like, he wants to feel like the one who you look to for everything, you trust, you depend on. And if you are making him so little, then in your eyes, he feels like he's nothing. So why should he stay? So try your best to show your man respect by being grateful for the things that he does. Those little bits of gratitude towards him go a long way. Valuing his ideas, keeping a positive communication loop, allowing yourself to disagree with love and gently, and trusting his judgment, trusting his role, giving him space to be a man and not questioning all the things that he does. At the end of the day, love and respect go hand in hand. As women, we want respect too. But for a man, when you lay that groundwork of respect, that's where love blooms from. This nurtures his self-esteem and it grows a connection for a stronger relationship. And if you did not know this, men need respect, and they see respect as love. No matter how many times you say, I love you, he will not believe you if you are disrespectful towards him. Another common thing that many women do not understand about men is that men are not mind readers. Now, I know saying this, it's like, yeah, of course they're not, but oftentimes women think that men are. And so when you have an issue, something happened, and clearly he saw that you went from being all happy and engaged to just attitude, you expect him to know what he did to make that shift happen. He'll notice a shift. He'll wonder, oh, are you okay? You seem upset. But he may not know what he did to cause it, even though it might seem so obvious in your eyes. Men need you to explicitly tell them what's wrong. What did he do? What did you feel? How do you want this resolved? They need it very explicit because they don't have that emotional capacity to sift through all of the could be's and figure out the one thing that it was. They don't. And it doesn't really matter. That's the issue that oftentimes comes up between this men and women battle, this disdain for one another, is that we think that our nature is the right one, that it should be conformed to how we think and how we feel. And men do it too. Sometimes they get frustrated with women and wish that women were more like them because it would just be easier. But I believe it's about balance. It's about understanding. And once you know that this is how men are, if you're dealing with a man, you will adjust it to what's going to get a response from him and not try to force him to be like you, because it'll never happen and it'll only cause frustration. So just tell him. There's nothing wrong with just telling him. He's not a worse man because he couldn't figure it out on his own. He's just a man. Some people are better at picking up subtle cues and hints and gestures, and they understand what all of that stuff means. Some people are, okay? But rarely does a man do that. Men usually don't even have the time for all of that. If a man is really about his business and he's just very one-track minded and kind of going through life doing things in that way, he may just completely oversee the fact that he missed your birthday. Should he miss your birthday? Absolutely not. He should not miss your birthday. He should not. But instead of going the whole day moping and angry and all of these things, you can tell him exactly what the issue is and why it bothers you that he forgot. And maybe you might need to do something to help him remember in the future. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have this person that just knows everything and does everything right. You can help him. That's a great thing. And he will appreciate that versus you berating him or making him feel like a horrible person. This is life. We are people. It's about working together and not having pride or having expectations that are unreasonable in this world that is full of stuff. Things happen, people forget, people are human, they make mistakes. So practice direct communication, be open to open dialogue, have an open heart about things, especially when things happen that bother you. And give him the space to be able to make up for those things and to tell you what he feels or how sorry he is without making him go through an entire day, an entire ordeal of figuring it out and getting angry because he couldn't. And the very last thing that women oftentimes do not know about men, and I've talked about this before too, so go through my channel, watch these videos because I go into great detail about some of this stuff. Men have emotions, even though they may not show it often. That is one mistake that women often believe, and they act that way toward men, like they don't have emotions. So they're maybe a little bit more harsh, or they say things that are just unreasonable because they think it's not going to affect him. Men have just as many emotions as you do. They are human, but they may not be able to access and express them as easily as you can. It's not their default way of behaving. It's there. It's just not where their mind goes first. And so It's important as a woman to realize that men have emotions and to address his emotions, even if you don't always see it at the forefront. Many men are taught at a young age to be stoic and to hide their emotions because it makes them more of a man. It's false. It's false teaching to do that, but that is a reality, especially in certain cultures. So many men have learned to suppress their feelings or to hide them. And this comes out oftentimes in their behaviors. Sometimes they don't even understand what they're actually feeling. They know they're feeling something, but they can't even put the word to the emotion because they're so separated from their emotions, which is why they normally do need that time away to be able to process and understand what's going on. So it is necessary for you as a woman to understand that sometimes his emotions might be expressed through his actions, like through his behavior, and maybe even through his body language. Sometimes men will just shut down. They'll just stop talking. They'll go the whole day not wanting to communicate because they don't really know how to. They're not ready to, but they also don't understand what's actually bothering them. They may know that you cursed at him, but they don't know what about you cursing at him made him mad. What does that mean? How does it feel? They don't access those feelings as much, but they're there and they're active. And so as women, we have to be understanding and mindful of his emotions, and we have to address them, even if he doesn't state exactly what it is. So just remember that men are emotional, even though they may not always express it. But by you being mindful and watching him and taking the things that you do seriously towards him, even if he's a man, will help to foster better communication, a better and more secure relationship, in knowing that he can trust you with his emotions, knowing that he can show up as who he is and you will not act as if those emotions are not real, that you will not make him feel like less of a man for being expressive with his emotions, and allow him to be able to have transparency and vulnerability with you. So I hope that this was helpful to you and just helping you understand more things about men. Let me know in the comments if there are more things that you would like to understand about men, or things that you want to share from your own perspective or your own situations that have shown you how men really are, or things that we oftentimes don't realize about men. We want to know. I thank you for listening, and I hope that this blessed you. Until next time, remember that in all things that you do, make a feminine impression. Bye-bye.